Just to start off, I knew who Opeth was way before I started finding out who Porcupine Tree was. So Opeth has been my favorite band for at least, let's just say, over 10 years. Over 10 years I've been a fan of Opeth. About when the Blackwater Park album came out, around that time, that was the first album that I listened to for Opeth, but this isn't about Opeth, not really. Blackwater Park was the first album I listened to of Opeth, and I loved them ever since. And then, leading up to Voodoo Fest, it's either 2007 or 2008, that Porcupine Tree played at Voodoo Fest in New Orleans. If there's at least one good band that I know is playing, I'll go, and then I'll explore other bands that are playing and try to find new good music to listen to. And that year I was going for, I think it was Rage Against the Machine. It was one of their last shows ever. And when I was walking around way before that set, I saw Porcupine Tree playing, and I didn't know who they were. They didn't have a sign as far as I could tell, but I just happened to walk up in the middle of their set, and I loved them. It was back in 2007, 2008, and I thought maybe I could do some research online to figure it out, but I was kind of like, I don't know. So I took a picture of them. It was the only band that I liked from that year that I was going to go research and look into, but I never actually did it. Like, I didn't think I could actually just take a picture of the person and go online with just a picture and, like, ask somebody who is this. I didn't know, like, I didn't think that was a logical thing to do afterwards, but totally remember the bassist. The bassist has, like, I don't know, he has a unique look, I guess. He was very cool, and, like, if you guys know, I didn't know his name. That all passes. I never actually went to go look for Porcupine Tree. But a couple years later, I was in a relationship with somebody who burned me some CDs and burned me copies of their CDs and left me piles of new music to listen to. And I never actually went through all these CDs. I'm really picky, so I just never looked through these CDs of random bands I've never heard of. And after me and this person broke up, one of these odd days that I just was looking for new music, I went through this pile of CDs, and there was one album that I picked out, and it was Porcupine Tree's Deadwing. And knowing that I never picked out any other CD from that pile of CDs, all the rest of them just went somewhere, and I popped that in, and I listened to it, and I loved it. Maybe a year or so later, I started getting more into their music, and they ended up being one of my, like, Opeth was number one, and then Porcupine Tree was working their way up, and they were, like, my two favorite bands at that time. I started listening to more Porcupine Tree, and then Christmas came up, and somebody in my family got me a Porcupine Tree DVD. And it took me a while to watch it because I was busy doing stuff during the holidays, and it took me a couple months to actually sit down and watch the whole thing all the way through. And someone who doesn't really care about what somebody looks like, I didn't know what Porcupine Tree really looked like the group looked like, or any history or anything. I didn't really know what I was expecting with this DVD, so I just popped it in, and eventually I started watching it, and then I realized the bassist looked exactly like the bassist from the band that I saw at Voodoo Fest. And then started watching some Opeth documentaries of old recordings of Opeth in the studio, where Steven Wilson is in the studio with them producing the music, and he's in some of the songs. Like, how did I not know Like, how did I not know that? How did I know these two bands and didn't know that they were like intertwined with each other? Storm Corrosion, which was like, oh my god. And then I saw Michael on Steven's Insurgents DVD that he released. But it was like all these things and like blew my mind as soon as I figured it out. Steven and Michael are best friends, kind of, I guess. And they've done projects together and they're on each other's albums. And it's just, well, you know, they were all entangled in each other and I didn't know anything about it, but yet somehow I found them individually and they were both somehow my two favorite bands and I didn't know anything about all of this stuff. And Voodoo Fest was the first and only time I've ever seen Porcupine Tree live and I didn't know who they were. And now that I know who they are, Porcupine Tree isn't together anymore. Finally got tickets to go see Steven Wilson. Yeah, I have tickets to see Steven. And then apparently Steven plays a few Porcupine Tree songs on his set, which I'm excited for. And I've listened to some of his solo stuff and I like most of it. Obviously, there's this one track that right now that's off his new album, To the Bone, that, you know, all his past fans kind of. But I'm excited either way, and I'm ready to see one of my favorite bands, or at least the front guy from one of my favorite bands ever. You know how everybody has like their set bands list that you have that of bands that you would love to see live? Porcupine Tree is like the last band on my list to see. Like, I know I've seen them, but now that I'm aware of who they are and whatever, I would like to see them again, like in this perspective. That would be the last band on my list. But I guess Steven on his own is good enough, and maybe, I don't know, I might go see one of Gavin Harrison's bands. If they ever come around here, I might go see them too, and it kind of be like bits and pieces of Porcupine Tree. I don't know. Whatever. This isn't usually what I do here. This is kind of new. Something I had to share and I thought was kind of unique.